Good morning, everyone. Escola Politécnica at the University of São Paulo and FAPESP, the São Paulo Research Foundation, are honored to welcome you all to the São Paulo School of Advanced Sciences on Nonlinear Dynamics. I'm Professor Gustavo Assi here from Poli, which is Escola Politécnica, and I will be hosting this opening ceremony, but I'm only attending the rest of the event as a student, just like you. In the event of any emergency, please follow the evacuation signs to the way out of this auditorium. It should not be difficult to find your way out through the sides or through the front doors as you came in. Right, to set our table this morning, we'd like to invite Professor Reinaldo Giudici, who is the Deputy Head of Escola Politécnica, to welcome the organizers here at the opening table. We also invite Professor Roberto Marcondes, here from the University of São Paulo as well, who is the Adjunct Coordinator of Research Programs in Exact Sciences and Engineering at FAPESP. We invite Professor Henrique Lindenberg, who is the President of the Commission for International Relations here at Escola Politécnica. And representing the organizing committee of the Advanced School of Nonlinear Dynamics, we invite Professor José Roberto Castilho Piqueira. And I must also mention the other three members of the organizing committee of this event, and I would like to invite them to please stand up: Professor Carlos Mazzilli, Professor Celso Pesci, and Professor Guilherme Franzini. Dear students, the São Paulo School of Advanced Sciences is a program from FAPESP that promotes short advanced courses in various fields of knowledge, here in the state of São Paulo, of course. All lecturers in this event and all other FAPESP schools are scientists with excellent qualification and prominence in their research fields. But by funding travel expenses of Brazilian and foreign students, FAPESP wishes to establish here in the state of São Paulo a globally competitive hub for talented researchers. The program aims at having 50% of Brazilian students mixed with 50% of students from everywhere else in the world. So if you have been selected to join us in this event as a student, we not only hope that you will benefit from learning from the best minds in your research field, but also use this opportunity to develop and deepen your network, and especially your scientific network for the future. In the next 2 weeks, we will participate in 31 lectures. It will be tiring, I know, but I hope you have the stamina to hold on to the end. There will be poster presentations and also technical visits. The courses, courses this year will address fundamentals of dynamics, stability theory, bifurcation theory, dynamical integrity, structural reliability, asymptotic methods, nonlinear vibration, modes reduced order models, nonlinear oscillators, nonlinear systems identification, nonlinear control, nonlinear fluid dynamics, applications, and nonlinear coffee breaks. And I hope you enjoy all these nonlinear events as you grab all the knowledge you can. We are 13 lecturers from 10 different universities in 6 different countries. This year, we have broken a record. We are 126 students from 30 different countries. And now I will just announce our 13 lecturers, and I will invite them all to stand up at the end, who are Alexei Malibaev from Brazil, working in Brazil. I'm so sorry for pronouncing your name. Alois Steidl from Wien in Austria. Andrei Metrekini from the Netherlands. Carlos Mazzilli from Brazil. Celso Pesci, working in Brazil. Guilherme Franzini from Brazil, José Castilho Piqueira, also from Brazil, Lívia, oh, this is a difficult one, Lívia, thank you very much, Lívia Zvedkanin from Serbia, Luisa Aguirre from Brazil, Marcelo Amorim Savi from Brazil, Paulo Batista Gonçalves, also from Brazil, Roberto Camassa from University of North Carolina in the United States, and Stefano Lenci from Italy. Please do all stand up, all the lecturers, and let's welcome them with a hand of applause. And of course, we praise FAPESP for this outstanding initiative, for also funding this event and also funding students to come and to initiate this conversation and to establish a hub for networking. Now, we would like to, I apologize, representing the organizing committee, I would like to invite Professor Piqueira for his words this morning.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Trying to be brief. I welcome all of you at São Paulo School of Advanced Science on Nonlinear Dynamics. I want to start greeting Professor Reinaldo Gildes, the Vice Dean of Escola Politécnica, Professor Henrique Lindenberg, that is the Director of our relations, international relations, and Professor Gilberto Marta, representing the Commission of Research of Escola Politécnica, and Professor Roberto Marcondes, representing FAPESP. This event wouldn't be organized without the dedicated work of Professors Carlos Mazzilli, Celso Pesce, and Guilherme Franzini. They are the real organizers. I thank them very much. Nonlinear dynamics is a very developed branch of mathematics. And from the second half of the last century, with the huge development of computational tools, these techniques started to be important part of engineering research and design. This area is present in structural analysis, fluid mechanics, electrical circuits, control systems, vibrations, etc. Its knowledge is nowadays mandatory in any engineering activity. This school is about this. Important researchers from several engineering areas are here to transmit their experience to us in the next 2 weeks. This opportunity, mainly due to FAPESP, will put together young researchers from several parts of the world with experienced authorities on applying and developing nonlinear tools in engineering problems. Many persons helped to transform the idea of this school into reality. The deans of Escola Politécnica, voluntary students, workers from Escola Politécnica, Professors Gustavo Assi, Túlio Bittencourt, and Eduardo Tanuri. To them, our gratitude. Finally, I hope that we have a good school, enjoying knowledge and friendship. Have a nice 2 weeks together with us. Thank you very much.
We now invite Professor Lindenberg, as the President of the Commissions for International Relations, for his words.
Well, first of all, I would like to welcome you to Escola Politécnica, to these 2 weeks of the School of Nonlinear Dynamics. We are very proud to have this event here at Escola Politécnica, and this event is a very important landmark in our internationalization. While the internationalization of the undergraduate courses of Escola Politécnica started about 20 years ago, later we had also the internationalization of graduate courses, and today we have 123 academic agreements with engineering schools of 31 countries. Of these agreements, 23 of them are double degree undergraduate program agreements with schools of 7 countries. And we have 23 double degree programs in graduate studies with schools from 12 countries. In all, about 5,000 students have participated in our undergraduate programs. 1/3 of them in double degree programs and 2/3 in one-year programs. Of these students, our school sent 3,000 students abroad, 1,200 students in double degree programs, and almost 2,000 students in one-year programs. And we received, during this time, 241 students for double degree programs and almost 1,400 students from 35 different countries in one-year programs. So we have a very well-established now program for exchange program for undergraduate students. And the internationalization of graduate studies is also progressing very fast. So we are very happy to have these programs, which we would like to extend to other fields of activity, especially research. And one event like this is very important because, first of all, it comes from research, ongoing research, already here in international research here at Escola Politécnica, because most of the lecturers that will participate in this event, they are people that are already working with our professors, and this is indeed a very international event. 13 professors from 6 different countries. 100, as Professor Assi has already said, 126 students from 28 different nationalities, coming from 48 different institutions from 18 different countries in all 5 continents. So this is indeed a very important event, a very already successful event, and I would like to congratulate the organizers of this event, Professor Mazzilli, Professor Piqueira, Professor Persi, and Professor Ferrazini, for having conceived and organized the event. And I would wish you a very good, very fruitful 2 weeks here at Escola Politécnica, while the University of São Paulo is one of the most important universities in Latin America, especially in the field of engineering. We have 95 research groups, and I hope that during these 2 weeks you can visit some of our laboratories. I have dozens of very nice laboratories. I hope that you can visit some of them. And as Professor Assi has already said, perhaps one of the most important things here will be for you, Brazilians and foreign students, the networking that you can have during these 2 weeks. And I hope that these contacts that you are going to make will be very profitable in the future. So I wish you 2 very nice weeks here at Escola Politécnica, and also in the city of São Paulo. See, the city of São Paulo is, well, I like São Paulo very much, especially from the cultural point of view. We have a very, very rich cultural life here in São Paulo. So I wish you 2 very nice weeks at Escola Politécnica and in São Paulo. Well, thank you.
We now invite Professor Marcondes on behalf of FAPESP for his words.
Should I read the presentation or not?
Yeah, it should be ready. Quer falar aqui? Fica à vontade.
Okay. Tá funcionando? It's working? Okay. Cool. May I start? Okay, good morning, everybody. Thanks a lot to the organizers, everybody that is here. My name is Roberto Marcondes. I'm a professor at the computer science department, just across the street, actually. So we are kind of neighbors here. But I'm here representing FAPESP, who is the São Paulo Research Foundation. I'm going to explain some information regarding mainly the state of São Paulo. So that's why I'm thanking both the organizers and you that came here to give me the chance of showing, I hope, some good news. I really, if there is one name that I have here, a concrete goal, is that I would like to transmit some good information regarding the research infrastructure in the state of São Paulo, with one of the goals for FAPESP to have created these events. So there are many different aspects that FAPESP consider important regarding this kind of event. That's why I thank Poli at the University of São Paulo and everybody to organize such an important event. And one of the main goals that we would like to convince you, people from São Paulo and people from outside São Paulo, that there is a quite good research infrastructure here in the state of São Paulo going on. So besides networking and learning different exciting things regarding this school, we hope that some of you will consider seriously the hypothesis of coming here to the state of São Paulo to do your research career. So this is an important issue regarding these kind of events, and that's why FAPESP works quite close with people from an organization to create a good event. How much of you, who from you are here in the state of São Paulo for the first time? Please raise your hands. So, okay, so we have a good, I would say, some half or something like this of the people. So be quite welcome. And for those of you that are from outside São Paulo, and for those of you that are from São Paulo itself, I hope you'll find my presentation useful. So my presentation will be divided in three main parts. I'm going to speak a little bit about the research infrastructure in the state of São Paulo, both for basic and applied research. Then I'm going to show some examples of this research going on. Some of them are linked to the theme of this school here. And then I'm going to conclude speaking about some nice opportunities for you to come to the state of São Paulo and to do part of your postdoc or start a career at university or start a career in some startup or anything like this, okay? So for those of you that are not from São Paulo, you see there the country, Brazil, and in red is São Paulo, so we're in the middle of that region there. There are many numbers that I could give you regarding the research infrastructure in the state of São Paulo, but I'm going to give you some easy numbers, okay? So we have some good federal universities, state universities like the University of São Paulo. We have private universities, research institutes. There is a good group of research institutions in the state of São Paulo. But I'm give you some few numbers that you can take away and remember once you are home or talking to your wife or to your husband or to your dad or something like this and say, oh, did you know that? And then you can speak these numbers to whoever you want, okay? If you think about the state of São Paulo, the state of São Paulo is more or less in the size of Spain and Argentina. So we're in the middle of Spain and Argentina. Our GDP is similar to something a little bit above Argentina, a little bit below Spain. So São Paulo has about 20% of the Brazilian population, about 30% of the GDP of the country, and nearly half, nearly 42, 44% or something like this, of the scientific production of the whole country. Picture Latin America, okay? So from Mexico to Chile, to Patagonia. Picture yourself and try to imagine. For every 5 papers published from Mexico to Chile, 2 are 2.5 or 2 are published in Brazil, and 1 is published in the state of São Paulo. So it means that São Paulo is nearly responsible for somewhere between 20 and 25% of the scientific production of from Mexico to Patagonia. So this gives a good idea of the importance of the research infrastructure here in the state of São Paulo, okay? And then there are some other numbers. I'm going to skip you these, and it will be a pleasure to discuss these numbers with you. So one of the main stakeholders, one of the main actors that are important in this infrastructure is FAPESP. FAPESP is the research foundation in the state of São Paulo. It has been created 55 years ago, so in 1962, and it has been 57, and it has been funding research in all domains of knowledge. So FAPESP can fund research from I don't know, humanities, engineering, mathematics, physics, and so on and so forth. So from Kant to quantum physics, you name it, and FAPESP, as long as research, FAPESP can fund, okay? And FAPESP can fund basic research and applied research as well. Our budget is about $500 million PPP per year. FAPESP has a number of different initiatives to fund research, so we can fund scholarships, we can fund grants, small-scale grants for 2 years, medium size for 5 years, and research centers up to 11 years. And besides funding research in all domains of knowledge, FAPESP has also some important programs that have been, in general, proposed by the community. So we have programs on global climate changes, on biodiversity, on bioenergy, and so on and so forth. So we can both receive applications from any field, but we also have our own programs. And as I mentioned, FAPESP funds research from basic approach, so basic research, but as well applied research. And we can fund research, that's what you're seeing here in the application-oriented research. We can either fund small businesses, small companies, or we can fund together with big companies research in academia. So these are more or less the different tools that we have. We have a number of research centers. I'm going to skip, not to go into the detail, but we have currently 17 of these research centers. This is what we call the CPIDs, and these are fully funded by FAPESP, but we also have research centers co-funded by FAPESP and some companies. There are some of these research centers around here. Probably you're going to hear about it. And in FAPESP, whenever we're speaking about the research that FAPESP funds, we like to think that it's important for the research developed in our institutions to have some impact to society. This is quite important for FAPESP. This is different from what you often hear whenever you're talking about impact, whenever you hear about impact factor of journals or something like this. This is nothing to do with the impact that we're talking here, okay? So forget about impact factors and this kind of stuff whenever you're speaking about FAPESP. For FAPESP, we like to think that there are 3 possible impacts to society and to the planet that can be the output of research. So we talk about social impact, economic impact, intellectual impact. The one that we are more aware in academia is intellectual impact. For instance, I'm a research in machine learning and artificial intelligence. So whenever I create a new algorithm, I'd like to convince my colleagues in my field that my algorithm is good. So I publish the algorithm, and if they start using my algorithm, this is a kind of intellectual impact because I produced an idea, and my idea is helping other people. So this is quite important. But there is also social and economic impact. I'm going to give you some examples of these that have been produced by research funded by FAPESP in some few slides from here. In general, when we are talking about the economic impact, we're talking about ideas that produce, for instance, new products, new companies, new processes, new jobs, and so on and so forth. And whenever we're talking about social impact, it's the case of ideas that are helping to shape our society for the good in somehow. So I'm going to give you some examples of these impacts as well. So this is an example of intellectual impact of the research funded by FAPESP. Here you see a paper that has been published in Nature. It's about carbon absorption in Amazonia. People at that time, when they published this paper, it was so important that Nature decided to put it in its cover. So what you are seeing here, you are seeing actually a tree of Castanha do Pará, it's a Brazilian nut, somewhere between Acre and the state of Amazon. And it's an illustration of the paper that has been published at that number. In particular, there are different people here from the University of São Paulo and from IPEM that were collaborating with people in the UK in order to analyze carbon absorption in Amazonia. So this is the kind of impact that I'm saying. You have idea, you publish a paper in Nature, and then Nature decides to make the cover based on the ideas that have been produced in that paper. But we have also different kind of implications for our research. For instance, there are some laws in the state of São Paulo. I apologize that the law here is in Portuguese, but I can translate. So this is part of the constitution of the state, and the law starts by saying, based on the project, research projects funded by FAPESP under the grant number blah blah, we state that, and that there is the law. Which means that we are living under some laws that have been created based on research. So this is really evidence-based governance, because people are taking decisions in the government based on the research that we create. So eventually this paper will not be two-sided, but the impact to society is enormous, because we are shaping our lives based on this kind of research. And then there are other applications, where other situations where we mix research and development, research and innovation. For instance, FAPESP funds research that is part of high-energy physics and astronomy in international consortia. What you are seeing here are some examples, like a chip that will be integrated in LLC, in CERN, and the chip actually was designed here in the school, in the Polytechnic school. And people like, you learn a lot that Brazilians are funny somehow, and something that we like to do is to give Brazilian names to things. So whenever you see this chip here, the chip that will be 80,000 chips will be incorporated in LLC, its name is Sampa, which is a nickname for the city of São Paulo. And in this case that we're seeing here, it's a photon detector system that will be incorporated in one of the largest neutrino detectors that are being developed in Fermilab. And the photon detector system is called Arapuca, which is a nickname for a trap for trying to trap muons and photons and so on and so forth. So these are examples of research that mix basic research in high energy physics, for instance, and also the development of high-tech electronics. Then we have also research that can be that can have impact, for instance, to society in terms of the public health. This is, for instance, an example of a research regarding the Zika virus. You probably remember, sorry, the outbreak of Zika some years ago, and FAPESP was able to organize different research networks here in the field to study different aspects regarding the Zika virus, and this was in particularly important because one research group here in the state of São Paulo, actually here at the University of São Paulo, started to study how to use the Zika virus to control cancer. So it's really a kind of basic research that can have enormous impact in public health and so on and so forth. This was news in the New York Times and so on and so forth. So I'm concluding here this first part when I'm speaking about the basic research that FAPESP funds with this slide. We like this slide a lot because it's a kind of collection that we have in FAPESP. I'm a mathematician, okay? So I like to define things based on properties. If you want a definition for this slide here, all the covers here, they share the common property that the cover of that journal number is based on a paper funded at that number, funded by FAPESP. So published at that number, funded by FAPESP. And you may recognize many of these journals here, and the collection is simply growing, increasing, and growing. Okay? So this is the part of the basic research that I would like to give some examples to you. Now I'm going to speak about some more applied research examples, because as I mentioned, I hope that these starting with this presentation and then with the other interesting things that you are going to see along the week, you'll be able to get interested in coming to the state of São Paulo to do your career someday. And now I'm going to speak about some applied research that FAPESP funds, both in the universities as well as in companies or together with companies. So as I mentioned, FAPESP has two applied research programs, what we call the PIPE and the PITE. The PIPE is a program where FAPESP can fund research in a small business. So the company will be funded. It can be a startup, it can be a small company, and so on and so forth. And FAPESP can also fund research together with a big established company inside universities and research institutions. So I'm going to give you some examples of both. Regarding the PITE program, which is research funded by FAPESP, co-funded by FAPESP and some companies. In general, FAPESP receives applications of companies that are interested in funding a research project here at Polytechnic for school, for instance, at Unicamp, and so on and so forth. And we can fund research in all domains of knowledge, and in this case, matched funding. So these are good opportunities for students willing to start to establish themselves in established groups in the university. So here are some examples of companies that FAPESP has agreements. You probably were going to recognize some of them of being part of your field or something like this. The company can be a Brazilian company, it can be a multinational company, it can be the government or whatever. And particularly, among the different projects that FAPESP fund in this program, and I would like to call you the attention regarding this, there are the research centers. And why I'm calling the attention of you regarding these research centers, and I invite you to try to learn more about the centers. Because these are big projects, and the centers are always looking for bright students to join the center. So this, if you are looking for opportunity to work in engineering somehow, there is a number of centers working on different fields like gas, like oil, like applications in pharmaceutics, and so on and so forth. And they're always looking for talented people to work on them, to do the PhD, to do a postdoc, and so on and so forth. So this is one of the programs that if you go to a website called Opportunity, so if you simply Google or Bing FAPESP Opportunities, this is a website where all the scholarships funded by FAPESP in these centers, they have to announce the opportunity. So if you go now, you're going to find many opportunities, and eventually if you're looking for somewhere to do your postdoc or something like this, there may be a good opportunity for you there. So there's a number of centers. You may recognize the companies like Peugeot Citroën, British Gas, no longer BG, now it's Shell, GlaxoSmithKline, and so on and so forth. So there's a number of centers in all different fields. You may recognize something that interests you, so go to the website. Eventually you're going to find an opportunity for a career there. So let me give you some examples regarding AI, which is now hype nowadays. Suddenly I was doing research for 30 years on AI, and suddenly I find myself as a hype guy. Even my mom is interested in what I'm doing now or something like this. As you can see, there are lots of research. This is some projects, but if you see here, this is the number of grants in small business that FAPESP have been granting and funding on small business. And as you can see, there's a huge increase recently because AI simply became a coqueluche, very hype nowadays. Can you play this for me? Let me see if it works. So FAPESP has a new kind of program in order to advertise the research in the state of São Paulo. It's called Ciência São Paulo. It's a 1-minute videos that are on YouTube. So if you Google Ciência São Paulo FAPESP, you're going to find this webpage. There are lots of videos. Particularly, this is a video of a startup that has been created in the School of Electrical Engineering. It's a former master's student there at Unicamp in Campinas, where they develop a device that can be put in any wheelchair, and the device starts controlling the different motors and the different controls that it has in the wheelchair, so that people can control the wheelchair movements using their face, and face like smiling and doing different things on face. So it's a mixture of computer vision and control to do this, and now this company has offices in the US. Besides São Paulo, they have offices in China and so on and so forth. So it's a kind of good example of a research that was was born originally as a master, so it could be any control research that you are doing in your thesis. And after that, it became a company, and now it's a startup funded by FAPESP, and now it's a company with offices around the world. And there are lots of, let me see if I can go. So there are lots of examples like this, okay? There are examples, for instance, in agriculture. There are examples in sustainability. There is a company shown here that produces IoT devices, which are devices that in the form of, that act as sensors that can be put in different trees, and people are trying to use these trees to monitor both agricultural applications, but also to, for instance, to monitor trees around cities in order to follow the health of the trees and so on and so forth. There are examples, lots of examples in agriculture. There are lots of examples in health science and so on and so forth. So it's a kind of good portfolio of applications funded by FAPESP. Many of them were born in universities here in the state of São Paulo. Okay. To conclude this presentation, so I spoke about FAPESP, I spoke about basic research, I spoke about applied research, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about international collaboration, which is, after all, quite linked to the school itself. As it has been mentioned by the organizers, FAPESP pays lots of attention to international collaboration. This is considered really quite important for FAPESP. We have a set of different funding tools that are quite important to fund such collaboration. Actually, we expect the researchers in the state of São Paulo will have strong international ties in order to produce her or his research, and I'm going to show you some of these examples here. The international funding tools that FAPESP have may be divided in these different lines here. So we can fund through international agreements. We can fund research between institutions in the state of São Paulo and many different universities and research institutes around the world. Currently, we have 200 and something, 230 or some of these agreements. These agreements, they have call for applications all the time, so people here in the state of São Paulo already know a program called the Sprint from FAPESP. We have four calls for applications in this program where we can fund, in general, mobility, which means that FAPESP can fund researchers and students in the state of São Paulo to go abroad, to meet the researchers, to do workshops and so on and so forth. And our partners will fund their counterparts to come here to the state of São Paulo. So to do things like you are doing here, which is coming to learn and to do networking and so on and so forth. But FAPESP can also fund research in joint projects. So we have different agreements where they call for applications foresee a big project that will be co-developed by different teams here in the state of São Paulo and abroad. So, for instance, I have one of these agreements as part of my research. It's co-funded by FAPESP and ANR, the Agence Nationale de Recherche. It's the national funding agency in France, where we at IME, the School of Mathematics, the Institute of Mathematics, and people from the medicine school, we are co-developing a project together with people from the École Politécnica, the École Télécommunication in Paris, and people from the Université Dauphine. So there are these 4 teams, four different institutions that are co-developing a project for 4 years. FAPESP is funding everything that I need on my side, and ANR is funding everything that the French need on their side. So we have a different number of these kind of grants where we can co-fund the development of a whole project. Besides, we have our scholarships. So FAPESP scholarships, all FAPESP scholarships, they have the possibility of applying for an extra grant to FAPESP, and in this case, the scholarship holder can develop part of her or his research abroad. So I have many of my students that often are doing her or his PhD working with me, and then she goes to France, she goes to NYU in New York or whatever, and do up to 1 year of the research there, and then come back to do the final jury of the thesis. So this is something that is simply part of the terms that we have in our scholarships, which helps a lot doing the collaboration, because we have students going abroad all the time, and vice versa, because we can receive also students from their part. And we have a number of special grants that are targeted to attracting people that probably is the case of many of you here, which is our postdoctoral scholarships and the young investigators. I'm going to speak in order to conclude about them. Just to give you an example of the agreements that I mentioned, every point that you see here in this map corresponds to a city where there is a university or an institution with which FAPESP has an agreement. So we have agreements with most of the different countries where research is developing, many institutions that you might know, and if you simply, again, you Google international collaboration FAPESP, you are going to find the web page where I grabbed this map here, and then you are going to see a list of the institutions. Eventually, you are considering doing some part of your research in these institutions, and a possible idea is to come to Brazil, start your career, and then eventually you can do the collaboration that you are willing to do. So I don't expect you to read here, but the web page that I mentioned, here is really outdated number, okay? The number nowadays is double that, it's twice that. Okay? So it's nearly 230 or something like this. But then you can see that there are different agreements with different institutions, and if you go to the FAPESP web page, you're going to see that these agreements include both universities, but also research institutions and companies, because FAPESP has many agreements with different companies that can also receive our students. And the last map here is a different map where each point here is a student funded by FAPESP doing part of his research. So it's a map of our students that are doing part of their research somewhere, and eventually there are many of them doing research in the institutions where you are, okay? Regarding the postdoctoral scholarship, FAPESP funds a scholarship that is by far the best one here in the country. It's a scholarship that can be funded up to 5 years. In international terms, is competitive regarding salary. And in general, many of these scholarships, they are associated to big projects. So that's why I invited you to go to the, for instance, the engineering research centers or the CPIDs web pages to see if they have an opportunity for you, and I bet that you're going to find something that might interest you. And besides these nice features, as I mentioned, the postdoctoral scholarship also allows the student, in this case the researcher, to go abroad, to do part of his research abroad. So I have many of my postdoctoral researchers that are with me that spend up to 1 year working in some école in Lyon, at NYU in New York, and so on and so forth. So this is quite part of the business for us, and that's why FAPESP has established this as one of the nice features of this postdoctoral scholarship, as I mentioned. And we also have a grant called the Young Investigator. In this case, is the contrary. If you are doing a postdoc, how many of you are postdoctoral researchers here? Please raise your hands. Are there postdoctoral researchers? So, if you are doing postdoc somewhere in the world and you are willing to start your career here in the state of São Paulo as a professor at some university, so in this case, the Young Investigator Award is aimed at people like you doing postdoc somewhere. In this case, FAPESP will pay for you to start your grant, to start your lab. You will pay for the equipment, the consumables, the scholarships, and so on and so forth. And if the university does not pay your salary because they do not have it available at that moment, FAPESP can pay for your salary for up to 2 years. So you can move to São Paulo, FAPESP will pay for your salary up to 2 years. In general, the university will manage to find the money to start paying your salary or something like this. And then FAPESP also can pay for everything. This is the aim of the Young Investigator award that I mentioned to you. FAPESP, with this school, we really think that you are talented people on your field, on your research institution. You have worked hard to be where you are. And to come here, you have undergone another filter, because there is a competition and there is a committee here organized by peer at Poly. So we really recognize that you are kind of talented people that FAPESP is looking for in the state of São Paulo. So please take serious this message. If you are willing to do a good job in research and you are looking for opportunity, I hope to have convinced you that the state of São Paulo is a nice place. And we have research institutions, we have funds, and we have many motivated people from all ages willing to go farther and faster. So if you are looking for somewhere to do your career, please take serious this opportunity. I could spend hours speaking about FAPESP, but I'm going to spare you from this experience. Thanks a lot.
We are approaching the end of our opening ceremony, and on behalf of the organizing committee, we express our sincere gratitude to all our students who so kindly volunteered to help organizing and participating in this event. You may identify them by the blue vest they are wearing. They're sitting at the back. Please wave your hand. There you go. And please do not hesitate to ask for any help. All the lectures will take place, not at this auditorium, but at the auditorium of Civil Engineering. It's a building across the parking lot. You look for the first floor, right down, it's room S28. There'll be signs everywhere. You can climb up the yellow ramp as you get to the building. You see that. And please just follow the volunteers for any help. Since the coffee break will be there, I believe nobody will be lost on the way across the parking lot. Well, all the poster sessions will take place on Wednesday morning, and they will take place at that room, the coffee break room, where we are following just now. To conclude this opening ceremony, I would like to invite our Deputy Dean at Escola Politécnica, Professor Reinaldo Giudici, for his words.
Thank you, Gustavo. On behalf of Professor Liede Bernucci, the Dean of Escola Politécnica of University of São Paulo, who I am representing in this ceremony, I'd like to welcome all of you. Polytechnic is very proud to host and to organize this event, and I would like to thank the professors involved in the organization, Professor Piqueira, Mazzilli, Pessi, Franzini, and all the students and staff also involved. I also would like to thank the invited letters that came to share their expertise with you. And of course, FAPESP for the sponsorship that make this event possible. Of course, the topic is very exciting. Non-linear dynamics is a topic that has applications in, I would say, all branches of knowledge, in physics, chemistry, in biology, and life sciences, and of course in all branches of engineering, and even in interpretation of data from social sciences, for instance. So this topic is really hot, and I hope you enjoy this event and take this opportunity to discuss and to generate more discussions about this interesting topic. So thank you very much for coming, and I hope you enjoy the course.
And once more, and on behalf of the organizing committee, we are grateful to FAPESP and Escola Politécnica for sponsoring and hosting the São Paulo School of Advanced Sciences on Nonlinear Dynamics. Thank you, Professor Pesci. I just got to know there's a brief demonstration now of how to use the Moodle system so you can follow the course. Who is preparing that? Giovanni? Open it. Okay. Quer o microfone, Giovanni?
Hello. So you might have received a paper explaining how to access the Moodle, but I'm just showing it. Oh, wait a minute. How to do this? So it might be quite complicated because it's in Portuguese, but I'll try to explain to you. Can I just have one of those papers? Yes, thank you. Thank you. Well, first of all, I have to just to sign the curso de extensão USP. And then here you just have to put your, like the code, FAPESP, SP, and now, continue. For Brazilians, you can just put also the CPF on the other table. The username, I'll use in Professor Pess's name. So.
You can redirect your spam email to that email address if you wish.
And just left click on create new user, continue, never, continue. And then here, again, SPNL. Left click on Escola São Paulo. The key is the same, so FAPESP, SPNL, and enter. That's it. And then here you can find all the lectures for all the professors here. Some of them are already being put in. So if you have any questions, you can just ask me or any of my colleagues in blue vests. Thank you.
Hand of applause. Okay, if you need any help logging into that system, please check with one of the volunteers. So, thank you very much for your attention. We wish you all a very fruitful, enjoyable, and non-linear 2 weeks here in São Paulo. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Enjoy the coffee break.